Hello, Heartfelt families. Thank you so much for once again joining me to share a wonderful book together. This one is about a little boy who is a very big helper for his city and for a garden. The title of the book is called The Curious Garden, and the author is Peter Brown. Let's begin. The Curious Garden. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. What colors do you see in this picture? What do you notice? However, there was one boy who loved being outside. Even on drizzly days while everyone else stayed inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing throughout his neighborhood. It was on one such morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. The railway had stopped working ages ago, and since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for the curious boy to do. I wonder what he'll find. Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last things he had expected to find up here, but when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned and he had a few pruning problems, but the plants patiently waited while Liam found better ways of gardening. I wonder if you know what a gardener is. What do you think a gardener is? As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. Looks like he's watering, he is trimming, he's singing, giving the plants lots of love. Most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up further and further down the tracks and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Liam and the Curious Garden explored every corner of the railway, noticing some changes in the city. After spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for spring. After 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Winter had taken a toll on the garden, but thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up further and further from the railway and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. The garden was especially curious about old, forgotten things. A few plants popped up in places where they didn't belong. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. But the most surprising things that popped up were the new gardeners. What do you notice is changing about the city? What looks different to you? Many years later, the entire city had blossomed, but of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began. The end. Now I want you to look at this picture. This is the city afterwards. Do you remember way at the beginning what the city looked like before? The colors or things in the sky? Let's take a look real quick. So this is how it is now. And then at the beginning, this is how it started. Wow, Liam helped bring the city to life. The end. Thank you so much for listening and sharing this book to me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.